I still remember the moment my doctor said those words. "You have type 2 diabetes." My mind went blank. The fluorescent lights in the examination room suddenly seemed too bright, too harsh. I was only 42. I exercised, well, sometimes. I watched what I ate occasionally. But diabetes. That happened to other people, right? Not to me. That was 4 years ago. Today, I'm healthier than I've been in decades. My A1C is under control. I've lost 27 pounds. And most importantly, I've learned that a diabetes diagnosis isn't the end of living well. It's actually the beginning of a new, more intentional way of living. Looking back, the signs were there. I was constantly thirsty. No matter how much water I drank, my mouth felt like the Sahara Desert. I was making bathroom trips so frequently that my coworkers probably thought I had some kind of bladder issue. And the fatigue, wow, the fatigue was something else. I'd sleep 8 hours and wake up feeling like I hadn't slept at all. But you know how it goes. We get busy. We make excuses. It's just stress, I told myself. It's just getting older, I rationalized. Until one day, I couldn't button my favorite pants anymore, and I realized I'd gained almost 15 pounds in 3 months without changing anything about my diet or exercise routine. That was my wake-up call to finally schedule that physical I'd been putting off for, well, longer than I'd like to admit. When my doctor called with my lab results, her tone was serious. "Your blood glucose is 287, and your A1C is 8.9, she said. For reference, normal blood glucose is under 100 when fasting, and a normal A1C is below 5.7%. Mine wasn't just high, it was in the danger zone. I remember sitting in my car in the parking lot of my office after that call, staring at nothing. I felt scared, overwhelmed, and if I'm being completely honest, a little ashamed. Like somehow I'd failed at taking care of myself. But here's what I want you to know if you're hearing those words for the first time. A diabetes diagnosis is not a personal failure. It's not a punishment. And it's absolutely not a death sentence. It's information, valuable information that you can use to make changes and take control of your health. So what exactly is type 2 diabetes? I realized after my diagnosis that despite diabetes affecting millions of people worldwide, I knew embarrassingly little about it. At its core, type 2 diabetes is a condition where your body either resists the effects of insulin, a hormone that regulates the movement of sugar into your cells, or doesn't produce enough insulin to maintain normal glucose levels. When this happens, too much sugar circulates in your bloodstream, eventually leading to serious health problems if left untreated. Unlike type 1 diabetes, which is an autoimmune condition where the body attacks the insulin-producing cells in the pancreas, type 2 typically develops over many years. It's influenced by a combination of genetic and lifestyle factors. Risk factors include being overweight, being physically inactive, having a family history of diabetes, and age, though we're seeing more and more younger people developing type 2 diabetes these days. The symptoms I experienced: increased thirst, frequent urination, fatigue, blurred vision, slow healing sores. These are classic diabetes symptoms. But many people have no symptoms at all, which is why regular checkups are so important. Learning about diabetes was my first step toward managing it. Knowledge truly is power when it comes to chronic conditions. The more I understood what was happening in my body, the less frightening it became, and the more equipped I felt to take action. Let's talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough: the emotional side of diabetes. Because let me tell you, it's a roller coaster. After the initial shock wore off, I went through what I now recognize as the stages of grief. I was angry. Why me? I bargained. Maybe the lab made a mistake. I denied. Perhaps if I just eat perfectly for a week, this will go away. I got depressed. Is this going to be my life now? Constantly pricking my finger and worrying about every bite of food. And finally, I accepted. This is my reality, but it doesn't define me. What helped me most during this time was connecting with others who understood. I joined an online support group for people with newly diagnosed diabetes, and it was like finding an oasis in the desert. These people got it. They understood the frustration of seeing a high blood sugar reading when you thought you did everything right. They knew the anxiety of eating at restaurants. They shared their tricks for remembering medications. One of the most profound realizations I had was that diabetes management isn't about perfection, it's about progress. There will be good days and challenging days. There will be times when your blood sugar is perfectly in range, and times when it's not, despite your best efforts. Learning to be kind to myself through this process has been just as important as learning about carb counting or medication management. Diabetes isn't just a physical condition, it's an emotional journey too. And that's okay. It's okay to feel overwhelmed sometimes. It's okay to get frustrated. What matters is that we don't stay in those negative spaces. We acknowledge the feelings, then we move forward. When I first got diagnosed, I thought I'd be sentenced to a lifetime of bland, joyless, diabetic food. Boy, was I wrong. The first nutritionist I saw gave me a list of foods I couldn't eat anymore. It felt restrictive and depressing. But then I found a certified diabetes educator who completely changed my perspective. She taught me that managing diabetes through diet isn't about elimination. It's about moderation, balance, and timing. I learned that carbohydrates aren't the enemy, they're just something I need to be mindful of. I discovered that pairing carbs with protein and healthy fats helps slow down the absorption of glucose into my bloodstream. I found out that fiber is my best friend when it comes to blood sugar management. Most importantly, I learned that there's no one-size-fits-all diabetic diet. What works for one person might not work for another. Some people do well with a lower carb approach, while others thrive with a Mediterranean-style eating pattern. The key is finding what works for your body, your preferences, and your lifestyle. For me, that meant focusing on whole foods, lean proteins, healthy fats, complex carbohydrates, and lots of non-starchy vegetables. I didn't give up bread or fruit, or even the occasional dessert. I just learned how to incorporate these foods in ways that don't spike my blood sugar. I started meal planning and prepping, which has been a game changer. Having healthy options ready to go means I'm less likely to grab something convenient but problematic when I'm hungry. Sunday afternoons became my food prep time, and now it's actually something I look forward to. One of my favorite meals is a big salad with mixed greens, grilled chicken, avocado, a sprinkle of feta cheese, some chickpeas, and a simple olive oil and vinegar dressing. It's satisfying, delicious, and keeps my blood sugar steady. Another go-to is a stir-fry with lots of colorful vegetables, a moderate portion of brown rice, and either tofu or shrimp for protein. Quick, easy, and so flavorful. I've found that eating regularly, not skipping meals, helps keep my blood sugar more stable throughout the day. I typically have 3 moderate meals and 2 small snacks. And I always try to eat a little protein or fat with my carbs. The most surprising thing, I actually enjoy food more now than I did before my diagnosis. I'm more mindful when I eat. I pay attention to flavors and textures. I appreciate the nourishment my food provides. Eating has become less automatic and more intentional. Let's talk about physical activity. Before my diagnosis, exercise was something I knew I should do but rarely made time for. I had a gym membership I barely used and a closet full of workout clothes with the tags still on. After my diagnosis, I learned that regular physical activity is one of the most powerful tools for managing blood glucose. Exercise makes your body more sensitive to insulin, which means it requires less insulin to move glucose into your cells. It also helps with weight management, reduces stress, improves sleep. The benefits are endless. But here's the thing, I still didn't love the idea of exercising. So instead, I focused on finding ways to move my body that I actually enjoyed. For me, that started with walking. Simple, accessible walking. I began with just 10 minutes after dinner each night. No special equipment needed, no gym membership required. Just me, my comfortable shoes, and a podcast or some music. Those 10 minutes gradually increased to 15, then 20, then 30. I started looking forward to my evening walks. They became a way to decompress after work, to clear my head, to transition from work mode to home mode. As walking became a consistent habit, I felt ready to try other forms of movement. I discovered that while I don't enjoy running or high-intensity interval training, I do love dancing. So I found dance workout videos on YouTube and started doing those in my living room a few times a week. I also rediscovered my love for swimming, an activity I enjoyed as a kid but hadn't done in years. The weightlessness of being in water, the full-body nature of swimming, it's gentle on my joints but still provides an excellent workout. The key was finding physical activities that felt good to me, that I looked forward to rather than dreaded. Because the best exercise for managing diabetes is the exercise you'll actually do consistently. I also learned the importance of breaking up periods of sitting. As someone with a desk job, I now set a timer to remind me to stand up and move around for a few minutes every hour. These movement snacks throughout the day help keep my blood glucose more stable than just having one longer workout session. And you know what? 4 years later, I still don't love exercise in the way some people seem to. But I do love how it makes me feel. I love knowing I'm doing something good for my body. I love the sense of accomplishment. And most importantly, I love seeing the direct impact it has on my blood glucose readings. When I was first diagnosed, my doctor started me on metformin, which is typically the first-line medication for type 2 diabetes. I remember being resistant to the idea of taking medication. Somehow, I had it in my head that needing medication meant I had failed at managing diabetes through lifestyle alone. That mindset wasn't helpful, and it wasn't accurate. The reality is that type 2 diabetes is a progressive condition, and many people will need medication as part of their management plan, regardless of how diligent they are with diet and exercise. Metformin works by decreasing the amount of glucose your liver releases and helping your body respond better to insulin. It's been around for decades and has a good safety profile. But it can come with side effects, particularly digestive issues. And oh, boy did I experience those side effects at first. The first few weeks on metformin were rough. I had stomach cramps, nausea, and other digestive problems I won't detail here. I almost gave up on it, but my doctor advised me to stick with it, assuring me that these side effects typically improve over time. She was right. After about 3 weeks, the side effects subsided significantly. I also found that taking my medication with food, rather than on an empty stomach, made a big difference. For the first year post-diagnosis, metformin along with my diet and exercise changes was enough to keep my blood glucose in a good range. But diabetes is not static. It changes over time, and so must our management strategies. During my second year, despite my best efforts, my A1C started creeping up again. My doctor and I discussed options, and we decided to add a GLP-1 receptor agonist to my regimen. These are newer medications that help your pancreas release insulin when your blood sugar is high, slow down digestion, and can help with weight management too. The thought of giving myself an injection was intimidating at first. I'm not a fan of needles. But the pen device was surprisingly simple to use, and the needle was much smaller than I expected. Now it's just part of my routine, no different than brushing my teeth or taking my other medications. What I've learned is that medication needs for diabetes management are highly individual. What works for one person might not work for another. It's about finding the right combination that helps you reach your target blood glucose levels with minimal side effects. I've also learned the importance of taking medications consistently. I use a pill organizer and set alarms on my phone to help me remember. And I make sure to refill prescriptions before they run out. Running out of diabetes medication, even for a day or two, can have a significant impact on blood glucose levels. The most important thing I've realized is that needing medication isn't a personal failure. It's just one tool in the diabetes management toolbox. Sometimes our bodies need a little extra help, and that's perfectly okay. One of the biggest mindset shifts I had to make was around blood glucose monitoring. When I first started checking my levels, I would get so upset when the numbers weren't what I wanted them to be. A high reading felt like a personal failure. A good reading felt like a victory. It was an emotional roller coaster several times a day. But over time, I've come to see my glucose readings not as good or bad, not as pass or fail, but simply as data. Valuable information that helps me understand how my body responds to different foods, activities, stress levels, and sleep patterns. I started keeping a detailed log, not just of my glucose readings, but what I ate when I exercised, how I slept, and even my stress levels. Patterns emerged that were fascinating and empowering. I discovered that certain foods affect me more than others. For instance, I can eat a small serving of my mom's homemade whole grain bread with minimal blood sugar impact, but a seemingly similar store-bought bread sends my glucose soaring. I learned that a 20-minute walk after meals significantly blunts the post-meal glucose spike. I noticed that when I don't sleep well, my fasting glucose is higher the next morning. This kind of personalized information is priceless. It allowed me to make targeted adjustments rather than sweeping changes. I also learned the importance of looking at trends rather than individual readings. One high reading doesn't mean my diabetes management is off track, just like one low reading doesn't mean everything is perfect. It's the patterns over time that matter most. Technology has been incredibly helpful in this regard. I use a continuous glucose monitor now, which checks my glucose levels automatically every few minutes and sends the data to my smartphone. Seeing my glucose trends in real time has been eye-opening, and has helped me fine-tune my approach even further. But whether you're using a CGM, a traditional glucose meter, or just tracking your A1C with your healthcare provider, the key is to use this information as a tool for learning and adjusting, not as a reason for self-criticism. One thing that became clear to me early on is that managing diabetes effectively requires a team approach. But the most important thing to remember is that you are the captain of that team. When I was first diagnosed, I didn't realize I had choices in my healthcare. I thought I just had to do whatever my primary care doctor said. But as I learned more about diabetes, I realized that I needed specialists who were particularly knowledgeable about diabetes management. My diabetes care team now includes an endocrinologist who specializes in diabetes, a certified diabetes educator who helps me with the day-to-day practical aspects of management, a registered dietitian who guides my nutritional choices, my primary care physician who coordinates my overall health care, a podiatrist who checks my feet annually, an ophthalmologist for annual eye exams. Building this team didn't happen overnight. It took time to find healthcare providers who were not only knowledgeable but also listened to me, respected my input, and treated me as a partner in my care rather than just telling me what to do. I had to interview several endocrinologists before finding one who aligned with my approach to diabetes management. Some were too medication-focused, wanting to add more prescriptions before fully exploring lifestyle modifications. Others were dismissive of my questions or concerns. The endocrinologist I ultimately chose takes time to explain things clearly, considers my preferences when making treatment decisions, and celebrates my successes with me. She treats me like an intelligent adult who is capable of understanding complex medical information and making informed choices. My certified diabetes educator has been perhaps the most valuable member of my team. She's the one who taught me how to use my glucose meter, how to count carbs, how to adjust my routine when I'm sick, and countless other practical skills. She's also been a tremendous source of emotional support. Remember that you have the right to seek second opinions, to switch healthcare providers if you're not satisfied, and to be an active participant in all decisions about your care. After all, you're the one living with diabetes every day. One of the challenges of diabetes that doesn't get talked about enough is the social aspect. Food is such a central part of our social lives. Family gatherings, holidays, office parties, dinner with friends, and having to be mindful of what you eat can sometimes feel isolating. I remember the first Thanksgiving after my diagnosis. I was so anxious about all the traditional high-carb foods that I almost didn't want to go. But instead of skipping the gathering, I decided to prepare. I ate a small protein-rich snack before going so I wouldn't arrive starving. I brought a vegetable dish I knew I could enjoy freely. I decided in advance which traditional dishes were worth a small serving to me and which I could skip. The result: I enjoyed the day, stayed within my carb budget, and my post-meal glucose was surprisingly stable. That experience taught me that with a little planning, I could still participate fully in social events centered around food. As for relationships, being open with friends and family about my diabetes has been mostly positive. The people who truly care about me have been supportive and accommodating. My close friends now automatically consider my needs when choosing restaurants or planning activities. That said, there have been some challenges. There's the well-meaning but frustrating diabetes police, those people who gasp when you eat a small piece of birthday cake or constantly ask, "Should you be eating that?" On the flip side, there are those who don't seem to understand the seriousness of diabetes and pressure you to just have one or insist that a little won't hurt. I've found that clear, direct communication works best. I explain that diabetes management is complex and personal, and that I know my body best. I thank people for their concern, but firmly establish boundaries when needed. Dating with diabetes brought its own set of questions. When do you disclose your condition to someone new? How do you handle meals out? What if they don't understand the importance of your management routine? My approach has been to mention it casually relatively early on, not as a big dramatic revelation, but matter-of-factly, the same way I might mention that I wear contact lenses, or that I'm allergic to cats. The right people will take it in stride and be supportive. Let's talk about something that scared me initially but now motivates me: diabetes complications. The reality is that poorly managed diabetes over time can lead to serious health problems affecting your eyes, kidneys, nerves, and cardiovascular system. But here's the empowering part: good diabetes management significantly reduces the risk of these complications. Every healthy choice you make today is an investment in your future health. I approach complication prevention as playing the long game. Yes, it would be easier in the moment to skip checking my blood sugar, to eat whatever I want without thinking about it, to stay on the couch instead of going for a walk. But I want to be healthy and active for decades to come. I want to see my nieces and nephews grow up. I want to travel and have adventures well into my senior years. So I do the things that sometimes feel inconvenient now, because I'm investing in my future self. I keep my medical appointments, even when I'm busy. I take my medications consistently. I make time for physical activity. I choose foods that nourish my body most of the time. I also make sure to get regular screenings for early signs of complications. Annual eye exams, kidney function tests, and comprehensive foot exams are non-negotiable parts of my healthcare routine. Catching any issues early means they can be addressed before they become serious problems. This long-term perspective helps me stay motivated. On days when diabetes management feels burdensome, I remind myself why I'm doing this, not just for today's blood glucose reading, but for the quality of my life for years to come. If you're newly diagnosed with diabetes, I want you to know that while this journey isn't always easy, it does get better. The overwhelming feeling of "how will I ever manage all this?" gradually gives way to a new normal. The lifestyle changes that seem impossible at first slowly become habits. The fear diminishes as knowledge and confidence grow. 4 years after my diagnosis, diabetes management is just part of my routine, like brushing my teeth or charging my phone. It doesn't dominate my thoughts the way it once did. Some days I barely think about it at all. More importantly, I'm healthier now than I was before my diagnosis. My weight is stable at a healthy level. My energy is consistent throughout the day. I sleep better. My lab work shows improvements not just in blood glucose, but in cholesterol, blood pressure, and other markers of health. I've learned that diabetes isn't just something to control, it can actually be a catalyst for positive change. It forced me to prioritize my health in ways I had been putting off. It taught me to listen to my body. It helped me develop discipline and resilience that benefit other areas of my life too. If I could go back and give myself advice on the day of my diagnosis, I'd say, "This feels overwhelming now, but you will figure it out. You will adapt. You will find a new normal. And someday, you'll look back and realize that in some strange way, this diagnosis might have been one of the best things to happen to you." Living well with diabetes is absolutely possible. It takes knowledge, support, consistency, and self-compassion. There will be challenges along the way, but you have more strength and resilience than you know. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to Diabetes Day by Day. I share new content every week about managing type 2 diabetes, from healthy recipes to exercise tips to the latest research findings. And drop a comment below to share your own diabetes journey or any questions you might have. This community is all about supporting each other. Remember, you're not alone in this. Millions of us are walking the same path, and together we've got this. Here's to your health, one day at a time.